The Powers Project.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Powers Project segment I call Dear dot dot dot. And what that is what I call a vletter, a video letter. I couldn't find a name for it, so I made one up. So it makes sense to me at least. Before I tell you who my letter goes out to today, let me make sure that I express to you that these opinions that you're going to hear in this letter are mine and mine alone. So if you don't like them, then come to me. If you love them, then come to me. If you don't care, good, whatever. But they're my opinions and my opinions only, okay? So today's letter is going out to none other than Lia Thomas. Surprise. So let's get started. Dear Lia Thomas, congratulations. You just became the first known transgender athlete to capture a Division I national title by winning the 500 freestyle at the Women's Swimming Championship in Atlanta this past Thursday. Now, you didn't do so good in the 200 and 100. In fact, you came in last place in the 100. So, but you won the 500. But I want to congratulate you on not on your victory. I want to congratulate you on becoming the new example for all kids out there to know what not to become. Because what you are is you're a cheater. You're a fraud, you're a liar, and last but not least, you're a man. And yet, none of those things seem to bother you because you're also a narcissist. And you don't care or have concern about anyone that you have done irreparable harm or damage to on your path to become someone. Because if we're honest, and that's what I am, in men's swimming, you're nobody. No one. You weren't even in the top 100, were you? Probably not even in the top 400. But one day you woke up and decided you were a female. And now, if you're not number one, you're damn close to it. And here's the thing about when you're a cheater and a liar and a fraud. I don't know if you threw the 200 and 100 or if you actually really lost, because those aren't your distances that you're strong at. That's the problem with liars. You don't know what to believe and what not to believe. You don't know what their motives are because they're just dishonest. And that's you. So no one knows whether you actually threw them or if you actually lost. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you're a man competing in women's sports. And you're doing this to make a name for yourself. You're doing this because you know you'll go to the Olympics as a female. You wouldn't even be considered for the Olympics if you were a male. It's much like those two boys up in Connecticut running track. You know, they woke up one morning and decided they were female as well. But here's the funny thing about people like you and those two boys up in Connecticut. You claim to be female and you claim to be uncomfortable in your bodies, but it's kind of funny how you hang on to your dick and your nuts and they're okay having them dangling around in the women's locker room. And you're so narcissistic that you don't even care if it offends your teammates. You don't care that your teammates petitioned for you not to be able to compete because they didn't want to cheat. They had enough integrity and honor, those things that you have none of, to say, we don't want Lia on our team because even if we win, it's not fair. It's not fair to the other teams. But you're not about being fair. You're not about doing what's right. You're about doing what's right for Leah, or should I say Will, because that's who you really are. Here's the unfortunate thing, folks, is that, and I'm going to talk to you, Leah, is that there are frauds like you out there who use the trans community to benefit yourself. And you don't care what kind of harm you bring to the trans community. Because see, here's the problem. For the first time in years, there's a pullback on the support that the majority of people in society have given the LGBTQ community. And it's because of the extremist radical activists out there who are pushing their agenda. And these extremists are nothing more than terrorists. That's exactly what they are. And they employ terrorist tactics to get what they want. See, the NCAA changed the rules after they said, all right, US Swimming, you take and you make the rules. And then US Swimming made the rules and said, and then the NCAA said, oh, wait, those are too stringent. Leah won't be able to compete if you make those rules like that. So we're going to take the control back and we're going to lessen those rules so that Leah can compete. Because the NCAA, they're afraid, as are a lot of corporations out there and organizations who are afraid to get the backlash from these extremist radical trans activists because they employ their tactics of fear. Like, if you do this, you're a transphobe. No, not a transphobe. As I said, I have trans friends. In fact, I have a, a friend who transitioned from female to male. And in the beginning, this was years ago, I wasn't really paying that close attention. So I often would still use the improper pronouns and call him by his female name. And the funny thing was, not once did he ever get upset with me. He was patient with me because he knew that I loved him as a person. I mean, this is just one of the most loving people I'd ever met in my life. And we're still friends to this day. Never yelled at me, never thought I was being disrespectful, was patient with me and helped me along to learn. But see, there's too many of these so-called trans people out there who want to make a name for themselves and they want to act on indignant and they want to act like the world's against them because they think that, oh, the world should be where they're at because they're so freaking entitled. They have this sense of self-entitlement as if the world owes them. You're not owed anything. Leah, you're not owed the integrity and respect that you demand when you don't give others integrity and respect. When you don't have it yourself, why do you expect others to give it to you? Why do you expect people to treat you like like a person who has integrity or a person who has honor when you have neither? And none of these extremists have honor. None of them have integrity, and they don't care. They honestly, I'm going to tell you, I had an interview because when I was going to talk about trans issues, I wanted to have a trans person on here who wasn't a friend of mine because I didn't want someone who was just going to agree with me. And I found someone who's an activist and advocate up in Georgia. And for the first time in over 2 years of doing this show, we had a great show. And he was absolutely a joy to have on the show because he was honest. And he said, so what? You know, he knew it was cheating. He admitted it was cheating. And he said, so what? So someone loses a spot. That person will be okay. And I said, but that's not the point. See, one of the things that these activists and these extremists like to always go to is, well, this harms the children. Well, on one hand, when you have governors who are saying that these kids can't compete except for in a sport, and let's say they compete in the gender that they were born as. You go, there's so few of them. Why does that even matter? There's so few of them. But when you talk about doing this, they go, it's going to harm the children. But you just said there's so few of them, because not only are there so few trans kids out there, there's even less who give a damn about sports. The majority of them don't. That's what makes me question these two boys up in Connecticut and people like Lia Thomas. Is like, are you really trans? Are you going to have a revelation when this is all over and go, oh, I was mistaken? I'm a man now? Are you really that desperate for attention? Are you really that narcissistic that you would pull a stunt like this? Because I wouldn't put it past you. You know, another thing they like to do is call everyone a transphobe who disagrees with them because of their pseudoscience. I want to make this point while I'm at it. You will never see any of these radical extremists sit down and have a debate with real scientists because they get destroyed. They would get destroyed. And that's why you will never see this happen. Now, you will see people who, again, want to push the envelope, but they get destroyed. There's this couple of trans people who were such a poor representation of the trans community on Dr. Phil. And I forget the conservatives guy's name that was on there, but he just made them look like fools. And he asked them to define a female, and both of them said, "Oh, I can't define what a female is." Then how can you say that what his definition of a female is wrong if you don't know what a female is? See, these extremists have infiltrated our grammar, and they're trying to make words mean something that they don't. They're trying to make us believe that their feelings trump facts, and they don't. If you're if you are a trans female and you're truly a trans female, I will treat you and as a female. I will call you by the pronouns that you want to be called by and treat you with respect. But the fact of the matter is that even though you feel like a female, you're still a biological male. That is a fact. I know your feelings don't like that, but it's a fact. So when you say, I'm a female and I want to compete in female sports, I'm sorry, your feelings don't overrule facts. And the thing is like I said, it's like nowadays with those two boys and Lia Thomas, you don't even have to get gender reassignment. You don't have to have surgery. You don't have to take hormone therapy. You can just say, I identify as a female, and now you're considered a female and can participate in female sports and against biological women who cannot compete against men of the same caliber. It's like taking a pro football team and letting them to win the high school national championship because you allowed them to play there. They're not in the same ballpark. It's ridiculous. And we see this time and time again with from one sport to the next, from cyclists, from swimming to weightlifting to MMA, you name it. It's and track. I mean, it's just crazy. Long distance running. And I just go, what the hell is wrong with these people? Because again, the trans people I know, they don't like making people feel uncomfortable. They're not out to make a scene. They want to live their lives in peace, being who they are. There's too many of these so-called trans people out there who are looking to just make a name for themselves. Like this Jessica Yaniv that claims, who slaps on some lipstick, not even well, puts some cheap wig on her head, and then says, I'm female, and then goes around trying to make a scene by shutting businesses down that refuse to give her waxing. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that, him a waxing, because they don't want to wax a male that's still got his nuts hanging out. These are not fucking trans people. And excuse my language. I swear I was doing my best not to curse. But these are frauds. And these frauds are harming the trans community, and they're harming trans kids. Don't feel threatened. Don't feel bad for them. Don't feel threatened by them. Stand up against them. One of the things that just started happening, which I'm glad to see, is that female athletes need to stand up and say, we will not do this. We will not allow this to happen. You want to put a man in there, then he can swim by his damn self. That's and women across the board should boycott these sports until they fix this. Now, people are going to say, you don't even, listen, I've been an athlete my whole life. And I don't really watch women's sports. It's never been my thing. And so people will go, oh, you don't even care about women's sports. Yeah, I probably don't. But what I do care about is fairness. And it doesn't matter whether it's a sport I watch or not. I do believe that that rules should be fair, that men should compete against men and women should compete against women. Adults should compete against adults and children should compete against children. It's that simple. I know it seems like a novel idea to the woke community, but you're not really woke. You've been indoctrinated with a bunch of BS and you're not smart enough to realize it. You feel smart, but there's a difference between feeling smart and being smart. And hopefully, when you outgrow this phase that you're in, you'll come to realize the difference. Now, I know this is going to be hard for a lot of you to swallow because living in reality isn't something you've done much of. But in the real world, there are differences between men and women. There are differences between adults and children. And to ignore those facts is to ignore reality. The world is not your little fantasy world that you created in your head. And what your feelings are not facts. And it's a dangerous thing that we're doing when we start placing feelings over facts. Again, if you feel like you're a man or you feel like you're a woman, I don't have any issue with that. Please be who you want to be, but don't do it at the expense of others. When you know that you're a biological male, you can feel like a female and want to act like a female and be a female, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you need to be smart enough to realize you're not a real female. And I know that's going to piss you off that I said you're not a real female, but you're not. And I'm sorry that that bothers you. But if you're upset with that, it's not me you're upset with, it's the truth. Because you want to live in your little fantasy world and you want your beliefs to be accepted by everyone. And everyone doesn't have to accept your beliefs any more than religions. We don't have to accept their beliefs. See, one of the problems that we have is that people on the left, their strengths are also their weaknesses. People on the left tend to be more understanding, more compassionate and caring, and wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt. They're also less likely to want to deal with conflict or confrontation. But this is their weakness as well, because these extremists know they don't want to deal with conflict or confrontation. And so they come at them. They come at them full force. And so the people on the left, especially those in the LGBTQ community, will go, oh, yes, of course we're accepting. They're not accepting. They don't believe this bullshit, but they're not going to fight against you because they're afraid. I'm not afraid. I don't give a damn. And fortunately, I'm not the only one. Fortunately, there are plenty of people out there who aren't afraid and who are tired of your BS. And hopefully, there'll be enough of us to gather together to shut your asses down once and for all, so that real trans people can live their lives in peace and be accepted by everyone, because they know the difference. And I need to make sure I reiterate that these extremists, radical activists, trans activists are not the same as the people in the trans community. They're not even close. They don't represent them, no matter what they tell you. All right, let's continue with this letter. Let's see, where was I? Oh, yes. Playing the tactic when, and that's the other thing too. So let's get into this. What are their tactics? Well, if their name calling doesn't stop you from confronting them and calling out their BS, then they start, playing the victim and talking about how you just hate trans people. No, I don't. I love trans people. I just don't love you. I don't love frauds. I don't love liars. I don't love cheaters. And that's what you are. There's a difference, because the trans people I know aren't any of those things. Then you accuse us of pushing hate. Of course we do. What's the next tactic? Trying to cancel you so your voice just never gets heard, because that's the only thing that they have, and that can to fight against you. They don't have truth on their side. They don't have the facts on their side. So the only thing they can do is hope to get you canceled so that you can't speak out against them. Because that's what they do. That's what terrorists do. That's what extremists do. And you ever notice this mouthy minority, as I like to call them? They have so much time on their hands. Is this all they do? Is and that's the thing. It's like we need to be vigilant. That's the word. Because now they're trying to start with indoctrinating children. I just had a conversation with some extremist activist last night who said, children have no concept of gender identity. A boy doesn't know he's a boy and a girl doesn't know he's a girl. And I said, you've never had a child, have you? You don't know the first thing that you're talking about. But if what you're saying was true, then how the hell does a kid know that they were born in the wrong body if they have no sense of gender identity? Oh, that got me blocked, because couldn't answer that one, could you? And if and is and here's another crazy one, is that trans females are real females. They're biological females. Well, then what's the need for transition if that's the case? You don't even realize how stupid your arguments are. Or maybe you do, and you're just hoping there are stupid people out there who will buy into them anyway. And unfortunately, there are some. And oddly enough, they're on college campuses. These kids are so wanting to be accepted that they're willing to buy into any BS in order to become part of something, to feel like they're part of a movement and that they're making the world a better place. This isn't making the world a better place. Denying things is like facts and truth, attempting to infiltrate our vocabulary so that words don't mean anything anymore. That doesn't make the world a better place. You can't call a chair a table because all of a sudden that's what you want to call it. Because if you call a chair a table, no one is going to know what the hell you're talking about except you. If you go say, pull the table up, people are going to go, what the hell you mean pull the table up? Beyond ridiculous. So let's go over a few more points here, Leah. Almost done. I hope you're enjoying this flutter. I know I'm enjoying it. And sorry it's not as concise as it probably could be. I just kind of wanted to wing it a little bit. Let's see. What more do I want to go over? Oh, many want to blame the NCAA for all of this because of the rule change. But the fact is, Leah, you're the one to blame. The NCAA has their share, but you're the one to blame because while they made the rules, you had no qualms in taking advantage of those rules to benefit you, and you knew they would change the rules because they were scared. You know, the fact is, Leah, you are part of this terrorist group now. You are their poster child. You are a terrorist. Sound harsh? Sometimes the truth does. I have no sympathy for you. I have no respect for you. You don't deserve any respect. I don't think anybody should come after you or anything like that. But you certainly don't deserve respect or accolades of any sorts. If anything, you deserve to be shamed for being such a poor person, such a poor example for children, for trans children, even for any children out there. The example that you set, is that what we really want to teach our kids? Do we really want to teach trans kids and straight kids and gay kids and all the other kids out there? Do we really want to teach them that it's okay to cheat, lie, and be a fraud as long as you get what you want? Do we want to teach trans kids that they're victims and marginalized so that they always feel like the world's against them? How about instead of trying to fill their brains with this BS, why don't we fill them with empowerment? Why don't we tell them positive things? Like you can be whoever you want to be. And it doesn't matter if you're trans. It doesn't matter if you're cis. It doesn't matter if you're straight or gay, black or white or whoever you are. If you love yourself, you don't need validation from anyone else. Therein lies a big part of the problem, though. These so-called trans people here don't love themselves. The trans people I know do. And that makes all the difference in the world. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't respect yourself. And so you look for it elsewhere. You look for validation and respect from other people because you can't give it to yourself. It's a sad way to live your life, actually. And if you find yourself as one of these people, This obviously doesn't just apply to trans people. This applies to everybody. If you find yourself constantly pissed off at the world, if you find yourself mad at everybody, full of hate, you just need to look inward. Because here's the thing, what you see on the outside of yourself, that's your world, is nothing more than a reflection of what's going on in the inside. And you can't love yourself, or you can't love others if you don't love yourself. You can't be honest to others if you can't be honest with yourself, or respect others if you don't respect yourself. So when you go into a store and you throw a tantrum because a cashier called you by the wrong pronoun by accident, and you want to make like it's, you know, a big deal, instead of just being polite and trying to explain yourself to the person and go, honey, I know you made a mistake here. I just wanted to let you know I'm a female, and I go by she. It's that simple. And most people will be happy to accommodate and apologize. But if you go in there making a big deal out of it, like they just committed murder, why would anybody care to correct themselves and to appease you? And the funny thing is like there's always a camera on you when you're throwing your little temper tantrum, as if you're teaching the world something. Everybody looks at you as a clown and a fool, because that's what you really are. And those are the pronouns you probably should go by. So, Leah, if you are truly a trans female, if you really feel like you were born in the wrong body and that you're a female, then why don't you respect females and do the right thing? Because the most hypocritical part of all of this is that in the LGBTQ community, we have always been about women's rights until recently. Now we're only about trans women's rights, and screw cis women, women who are biologically female. We don't care about their rights anymore. What happened to that? Because what, it doesn't benefit us to care about them anymore? Hmm. Interesting, huh? I know if I was a biological female, I'd be pissed. And there's a lot of them out there who are, and rightfully so, because you're making a mockery out of what it means to be a woman. You know, the charade that you're doing, that you're pulling, is no different than if I said, I identify as a black person and I put on blackface and pretend to be black. Or worse yet, I don't even do that. I just stay the color I am and just say, I identify as black. What a mockery that would be. Black people would be up in arms, as they should be, because they would go, what are you, making fun of us? Because that's what you're doing. You're making fun of women. You're making fun of biological women you have that you don't even care about. You don't care how you harm them. Is that what women are supposed to do? Is that what the empowerment of women's all about? Is hurting each other? Because if you truly feel like a woman, then I would think you would not want to hurt them in any way, shape, or form. But again, the fact is you don't give a damn about them. You just care about what you want and making sure that you make a name for yourself. And be damned to all the biological women out there, right? So, Leah, I know this isn't a love letter. I know it's probably not the kind of letter you enjoy receiving, but it certainly is the kind of letter you needed to receive. And not that you'll probably hear it, And not if you did, that you'd listen to any of it anyway and take any of it seriously, because narcissists believe they're right all the time, regardless of what evidence is placed in front of them. You'll always justify your actions and make excuses for yourself. And that's a shame, because one of the best things about getting older is that you get wiser and you grow. Narcissists never have any growth. And so you're going to go through life being as self centered as you've always been. And for all you people out there who don't know what the hell you're doing, you're just jumping on the movement because you think it's the cool thing to do. Learn about what you're supporting before you support it. If you have athletes like Martina Navratilova, who's arguably, if not the greatest, certainly one of the very top women tennis players of all time, who is a lesbian, who has been an LGBTQ advocate for decades, long before it became popular to be so. And she tells you Lia Thomas should never swim against biological women again. And then they go after her and call her a TERF or call her a transphobic because she has the courage to tell them this is wrong. You really need to look at the group that you're supporting and see if they aren't the terrorist group I tell you they are, because I promise you that's exactly what they are. You know, I'm not a big fan of Caitlyn Jenner's, because you want to talk about a narcissist, but even that narcissist realizes that trans females have no business competing against biological females. Again, world-class athlete, but what does she know? What does Martina know? They're just world-class athletes, right? They don't know anything about sports. It's, you know, if it wasn't so sad, it would be funny. Like, this almost seems like if someone told me that, you know, I saw a movie about this 20 years earlier, I'd laugh and go, that would never happen. And yet here we are, because people buy into the stupidest crap anymore just to look like they're woke. That's not something you should be proud of, because I find most of these people who think they're woke are just zombies. So, dear Lia, do better. Either act like the woman you claim you are and protect women instead of hurting them, or just go back to being Will and admitting that you're a man. And when you're walking around in the women's locker room, why don't you tuck your nuts up into your asshole instead of walking around and trying to offend your own teammates? If you can't do that, then at least have the decency to wrap a towel around yourself, because nobody cares to see you. You're like those old men at the gym, walk around naked with their balls hanging down to their knees. They don't wear a towel. They think everybody, they don't care if who sees them. That's you. I can only imagine what it'll be like 30 years from now, and you're in a women's locker room with your balls hanging down to your knees, walking around like you don't care. You're already doing it. That's sad. So do better, Lia or Will, whichever one you really are. Do better. Well, that's the end of my letter. I hope if Lia didn't enjoy it, I hope some people out there did. I know I did. So until next time, take care of yourself, be safe, and love yourself so you can love others. Peace.